Greetings, Summoners. Cosmic here, and welcome back to another Battle Spirit Saga Gauntlet video. And today we are going to talk about Gigano Rex. Gigano Rex, or the Emperor Beast and Pterosaurs coming together, are a more mid-range focus deck that features just all about confronting, getting into the battle attack step, and forcing your opponent to block. Of course, with red, we also have things like either BP-based destruction, powering up your spirits, or drawing a bunch of cards. So with the overview out of the way, let's get into the key spirit himself. So up first, we have Jurassic King Gigano Rex. This is, again, your key spirit. It's an 8 cost with 6 reduction. But the really strong thing about this spirit in particular is his kind of static blanket effect, right? That first part. So as you're summoning it, for each Pterosaur or Emperor Beast spirit you have on the field, it counts as 2 symbols towards the cost reduction. So instead of having, 6 full symbols on board, 3 spirits, 3 nexus, 4 nexus, 2 spirits, what have you, right? Some combination of that for this full reduction. Now instead, you just need 3 spirits on the board, and then suddenly you just slam this guy on the table for a cost of 2, and it's a very big boy. So now for this low cost of 1 core, where it would normally be a level 1, it is now treated as a level 3, getting its main effect. So right off the bat, this is a card that wants to play into the kind of this lower to the ground, or at least building up towards a plan where you build a couple nexus, maybe you draw some cards, maybe you have an early confront, and then you want to find the right combinations of spirits to play, ideally with confront, all in one turn, to force your opponent to block, remove all their spirits, because again, unless they're using absolute ice shield from hand, they're not going to be able to activate it out of their burst until they lose that life. So if they're playing defensively, now you have a bunch of confront spirits, well, you're going to clear their board, and it's going to be very, very difficult for them to come back from. Now, what's even better about that, as I mentioned about him getting just so big, is when the spirit attacks, all of your spirits gain 3,000 BP. So if we expect, let's say, a white heavy meta, a couple Gigano Rex and what the card's called Thundering Peaks that will untap and let him attack again, give even more power to your entire board. It's pretty easy to break up White's board state with Gigano Rex, where other decks like Nova can certainly struggle with because they don't have a lot of these BP boosting effects built in that can then also stack. So himself, Gigano Rex, both from a, figuratively and literally just power level, it is one of the strongest spirits in set 1. And again, if we do see a slower white heavy control meta, Gigano Rex is really here to save the day and break up those board states by going up to 13 or 16,000 power, not counting your nexuses, really, really easily. Of course, what's the downside, right? So the other spirits. So we have things like Overraptidon, which is really great. It's a 1 cost, 1 reduction. It's really great for turboing out Rex, but it's still a vanilla card at the end of the day, right? It goes up to 4,000. It's a good early play, but it's not all that exciting. And then you have things like Horn Grizzly, where it's a little bit better, right? It's going to be your spear with confront. It's really great at early game board stabilization. And with the thanks to 6,000 with 5 cores and the Gigano Rex, right, you can go up to 9 or even 10k with a single red nexus, which is a wonderful number to hit. And then also other ones like Parasaur, which you'll see that are in the list as well. And then the last one, Syntosaurus. I personally don't like this guy, but he's in the deck because he can reveal a top card and draw you extra cards. But honestly, I think the number one thing holding this deck back from being anything better than what I would say is a tier 2 pick that gets better depending on how the meta is shaping up is these spirits just aren't all that exciting. And as soon as we get more either Pterosaur or Emperor Beast, because remember, Gigano Rex cares about both, I think this deck just gets a lot better. And Gigano Rex is already a very, very strong spirit in itself, so it's not like they need another top-end card, right? Gigano Rex is going to get the job done for you. You just kind of need a couple more supporting cards to get there at the end of it. So, of course, there's also more vanilla spirits, which you can use if you just really want to go an all-in, low to the ground. There's that Eagle card that's a 3 cost, 3 reduction. That's all fine. In my opinion, you really want to do a slightly slowed down version that's more mid-range and removal and all that good stuff. Because again, one of the greatest weaknesses about this, right? We talked about Gigano Rex only needing 1 core on him. You know what that's really not good into? Purple. They can just pop off that core. And if you can't go wide with Gigano Rex and have 1 core on all your spirits to swing out, which again, purple will capitalize on very easily, you can't do what your deck wants to be doing. So again, in a field without purple, Gigano Rex can be very strong, but there are some very straightforward counters to it, and with how popular purple is, at least so far in set 1, it can feel really bad to play some of these spirits early on. So for this deck, very, very strong top end. Love what Gigano Rex can do, but these spirits do need a little bit of support, which we hopefully see in set 2 and later. What I do like, though, is these kind of tech cards that we get to see in both Flame Emperor Agnifen and Storm Beast Emperor Thunder Leon. Both these cards are very, very strong in what they want to be doing, and they also count towards Gigano Rex's ability. So what I really like about this deck is that in your main board, it allows you to play 2/2 split, whatever, right? That's just a good number for both these 5-drops. Can be sometimes situational, otherwise can be complete blowouts against some colors. And then in your sideboard, just run one more of each, right? And then you can sideboard out whichever one's not good in that matchup. If you're seeing a lot of hyper low to the ground yellow strategies, and Leon's going to get it done. If you see like more of the 3 and 4 cost purple and yellow cards that have one summon effects, then the Flame Emperor is just going to pop all of them. Like, it's very strong on what it wants to be doing. So I do really like this. It's kind of like a, Gigano Rex is great. The Tex on brand spirits that you have, or on family spirits that you have, are also really, really great in certain matchups. It's just those really couple early ones that we really need to figure out and hopefully get a little bit more support in set 2, or even the tournament packs, EX01 and set 2. There's a lot of opportunities to just get 1 or 2 Emperor Beast, which could really turn this around. But these 2 cards have been very, very strong, at least in early testing, and I do like them in this list. From going on from there, from a just typical good red cards and kind of more good removal, Burning Forest, we have to care about Nexus cards. Getting to hit 2 different 3K or less BP spirits is very, very strong. And then Volcanic Break. Hitting 6K is just a very, very good number to hit here in the meta. And at least for right now, there are key targets we want to hit that are 6 or less. So as you're trying to build up that Gigano Rex board and find the right pieces, Volcanic Break is just a great kind of, not a stall card, but like a board control card that can really help take care of some problematic threats for you. So again, the draw power and kind of all the supporting elements in red are very, very good here. And Gigano Rex is only a couple cards away from being a very real and very strong, powerful archetype, even if it's going to have a rough time against purple because of those core removal effects that we've talked about. So I do like that it has a kind of, it's going to be very strong into play the board white, but it's going to be very weak against things like the core removal purple. So it is kind of like, where does your meta call rely on, and kind of what was the field playing, because Gigano Rex can be a surprise pick for a lot of players that can be quite good. So with that, one more time, there's just an overview of the list. Again, this is just a first draft. I didn't talk about things like the Nexus, but again, it's really more, if you've been playing some of the other red decks, you know that a lot of these are kind of just like red good stuff, and you can kind of mess with the numbers. But really, the overall theme here is just how strong Gigano Rex can be, even if it is weak into the core depletion purple. But with a lot of the confront strategies that we do see here, it is a very strong pick to get rid of the board that your opponent might be trying to build up, and sometimes just a 13 or 16K Gigano Rex can in fact get there. So with the overview out of the way, let's get into the games. All right, so for our first match, we're going to have Gigano Rex versus the Luster deck. For those that don't know, the Luster deck on the right is all about reusing your spells or getting to cast spells for free with Michaela and just get a lot of value out of the game that way. So instead of your more traditional yellow aggressive strategies, you get to play things like Caladrius here that has Luster and lets you buy back magic to your hand. The important note here is that Luster does need to survive through the combat phase. So if the card is either removed, or if they, by destroying it or bouncing it, the card will not come back. The magic card will not come back off Luster because the spirit will no longer be in play. So Angelic Pressure is a good way to kill our Confront guy. One of the difficult things about this matchup in particular is that red has a lot of Confront units, and yellow wants to build up a board in both versions, either Michaela or God Beast, and red just really, either through Nexus Destruction or straight Confront on spirits, can make it very hard to stack up your yellow symbols. And we're going to catch it here in a second. He didn't have the Luster for the Angelic Pressure, so it will be going back into his trash. Yep, so there goes the Angelic Pressure back into the trash to correct the board state from the first turn. And again, just trying to build out some reduction symbols here. Flavum is also great because it can remove problematic blockers for you. Traditionally a very strong card against white, but red can have some larger spirits that you want to just not have to deal with. So sticking to the true red ways, we find a Parasaur here. We want to make sure that the BP is large enough to play around like another Angelic Pressure or just any type of magic here. So it would be very tempting to draw, but I think we have to save it for a following turn. Now Shin is the best luster target in the deck because it can untap itself, and here now he notices that we have the Confront Spirit on board, so he doesn't want to just lose his spirits to that. So while I have the only 1k 1-drop spirit as a blocker, he's going to go ahead and attack with both the spirits so he can't get confronted on the backswing, and very quickly we're down to 2 life. So here we're going to go ahead and commit the Volcanic Break because again, Shin is a kill on sight target, as you'll find out. Or if you have either multiple removals in your hand or if you're trying to build out a certain board state, it can be worthwhile to wait until they completely combo off with Shin, then go for the Volcanic Break and make them lose all those magic cards. The downside is that if they're playing something like a Flying Arc, now suddenly it turns off all your removal and they just get to combo off for free unless you're playing purple and can use core removal. So you do have to be very mindful against yellow that they could just hold a yellow Flying Arc, in their hand until they're ready to pop off on their turn. So speaking of, here's a Michaela. It's going to reveal cards based on what you have on board. 2 non-magic hits, which are just going to get discarded. And we are going to just try to build out a board. And here's a board state we're correcting really quickly because I was looking at my hand, wasn't paying attention quite wide as well. But we were using the Star Blessed draw. 1, it can be used as a bluff, but 2, we know that they're playing a high when summon count in yellow in general. So we were just trying to draw some extra cards. And now we can go ahead, use the Volcanic Break and the Soul Core to get the Michaela off the board. So again, this list, which is all credit to Prim, it's his version of Gigano Rex. It is a more controlling in nature, wanting to draw some cards and lead into these bigger Gigano Rex plays, as I mentioned in the intro, but you can build Gigano Rex as just a very straightforward, lower the ground, turn everything sideways style of deck, but I do find that the slightly slower and more controlling variant is going to be better on average. And here there was a bit of a back and forth where he's just going to say pass, which should probably always be a red flag when they're just passing without playing anything. And I believe it was the Exhaust Nexus play, if I can remember correctly here. It's been a little bit since we've got to play these games, but right, so yellow does have a lot of controlling options available to them. So here we're going to draw a card off Scorch, here we're going to draw off Rat. And I don't want to give my opponent too many resources, knowing that they want to, spam the board and then go into a Michaela Spirit, right? Giving them more cores is more to work with. So I am trying to build out a board where I can then use Gigano Rex. And here we're going to pay the full cost for Star Blessed to draw 4. And just make sure that whatever they play, I can make my board big enough. Because remember, Gigano Rex is going to buff your entire board before your opponent gets a flash step priority. Yes, defenders do get it first, but his plus 3,000 power is going to be that blanket effect for the entire board, and turns out it's very rough for yellow to remove spirits once Gigano Rex activates his ability. So here we're just doing a trade because, again, we cannot go lower than 2 life, or we can no longer put Absolute Ice Shield into our burst zone, so we do have to give up a spirit here. So here's the Flame Emperor that I was talking about in the intro. Now here it is only a 1-for-1, but as you think about the Luster deck in general, there is quite a bit that this can hit, so it wouldn't be surprised that if you're playing against yellow, you might have 1 or 2 of these in the sideboard and can end up killing 2 or 3 spirits at a time. And once again, we're going to attack with our Rat. We're going to get a card draw from the Rat and a card draw from the Scorched Battlefield. Everyone's favorite Luster Chicken entering the battlefield once more. So we're going to go for the block, force our opponent to have something, and now he does have the Exhaust Nexus. So just to clarify from a board state perspective, Exhaust Nexus is going to resolve fully. We were just kind of talking back and forth and checking the battle powers. Then any flash window priority would go back to me. Then I play the Burning Force. You do as much as possible so you can kill just one spirit with it, kill the Caladrius, and now he no longer gets Exhaust Nexus back to his hand, which is huge because that is the best spell in yellow for right now. And it allows us to, you know, he's probably only playing 2, so we're feeling pretty good there. You know, kind of go back and advance out our board. So here's where I mentioned double Gigano Rex coming down, and now it's going to be very, very difficult for Exhaust Nexus or some of that other, you know, yellow magic to work defensively. Again, he can still use it offensively. It's very, very strong when combined with Luster, but now our Gigano Rexes are looking pretty great. And here's a Flying Arc that I had mentioned. So this is where it can be very, very awkward for a non-Star Star Dragons list where you don't have Andromeda. It's not all that easy to break Nexuses anymore, and that can help them get Shin out of Volcanic break range. So Flying Arc is very, very scary against non-Star Dragons lists, and I think Andro in general right now just takes kind of the spotlight, so it's not as common of a practice, but it's definitely something to consider. So one of my favorite things about this deck is that you get to run Thundering Peaks. You can put 3 cores on it and double attack with Gigano Rex, activating that ability for a sweet 6,000 BP to your entire board. If that doesn't get you through the white matchup, I don't know what will. And once again here, we do see Shin coming online, and a Michaela that's going to end up revealing 3 magic cards, which is absolutely huge. So we do have Gigano Rex to block with, of course, right? It is a 10k, and their Shin is smaller, but he also just revealed a ton of various magic cards that he can use as a battle trick, and now none of our blocks are safe. Then just reminding him that it does recover, so that is not a May ability, it is a mandatory effect, which, funny enough, kind of is counterproductive here, as you want to leave Shin exhausted so it doesn't get to get confronted on this following turn. But here we're just having a bit of a back and forth, remembering that yes, Absolute Ice Shield is a card you can just play from hand to get that effect, so it does still continue through the battle. So I play Absolute Ice Shield, I'm saying, hey, this battle is going to end, and then we are going to, you know, still go through the rest of these steps with Luster. And here we have another Volcanic Break. So as I mentioned, we are just killing Shin on sight here where we can. Gigano Rex is going to get to attack and then recover with that effect. And here he's just going to use a Swarm of Magic to get a Gigano Rex off the board, because you kind of have to at this point. Again, with the confront targets, it can be pretty rough. And here he's just showing that it was just magic. So Gigano Rex just being big enough, able to go the distance. So up next, we do have Gigano Rex versus Elephant Control, or at least one variation of it. There's been a lot of different decks kind of floating around, so this is, again, just one version, but I figured it was a good showcase to just see how the matchup goes overall. And the thing I will mention from here on out, there is a bit longer matches coming up, so if you haven't already, feel free to pause the video, stretch your legs, grab some water, but we are in for some very long matches. Glass Bear being just a very important early drop for white, being able to ramp your cores. It being a 3k blocker is very, very relevant. And what's also nice is you can just leave 2 cores on it, and then when you go to block, he'll actually power himself up based on the ability. So it does give you a little bit of flexibility in which way you want to use the cores a little bit more freely. So here we're going to go for the confront, kind of no matter what we do, we're going to give him the core. And now what's really interesting about white is if they want to power it up or bounce with something. So here you're going to see the angelic pressure, which is going to shrink it by 3k. Well, now it's a trade in this case, but in some other matchups, power matchups, right, you'll actually get to survive and then get another ramp out of your glass bear, which can be huge. So here we're revealing an ice shield off the top, and I'm just double and triple checking that it does stay on top. It doesn't get discarded like the yellow decks or go to bottom decks in some other cases. Everyone's favorite boy, Buffalong Bill. So this is actually, you know, we knew it was a good card, and kind of as the meta slows down to a more mid-range and control format, you know, suddenly bouncing 3 or less versus 5 or less, you know, Odin versus Bill, those are very, very significant cutoff points. And now personally, I'm of the mindset where I was playing Odin in almost every white deck. I really do like Buffalong Bill for how it matches up within elephant control specifically. So here we know that our opponent's not going to just, you know, rush us down anytime soon. So we have the luxury of just building out some more cost reductions through Nexus cards, which we know he's not really gonna bother with because he doesn't have Andro. There's not going to be a Burning Force, at least immediately, because white doesn't have a lot of heavy draw power, so it's going to take him a while to see multiple Burning Forces. And yes, he does have the Buffalong Bill, so he can just bounce our blocker if he chooses to do so. But again, we really just want to kind of build out the board state. And, you know, if he does attack, it might open us up for confronting other spirits, which Prim recognized and did not attack with it here, and just wants to try to leave that back to get extra cores with his ducks, since that is only during your opponent's turn. So just more card draw again on my side, really trying to dig for the Gigano Rexes, because again, we want to try to go up higher and higher in battle power so that we don't just lose to a, say, suppression on the board. And here's where I mentioned where we're just really going to start going for some confront options. Gigano Rex is going to go up to 13 with his ability, and then 14 because of Scorched Battlefield, and then 15k because of the Volcanic Canyon. So a very early 15k, you know, delete your board target can be pretty scary for white, because, you know, the only thing that's beating that is Enterprise plus Suppression, and then you tie, and everything else is getting knocked out. And here you can see just a grip of cards that we have access to. So it's likely, I think I was trying to set up double Gigano Rex and as what's coming the next turn, but or just other confront spirits that then get value off of Gigano Rex's ability. So very, very nice follow-up here from Prim, getting the Enterprise online, as well as Rocket City, because Rocket City does give you more BP on block, which admittedly I totally forgot and did not at all play around properly in this matchup, because in my mind Rocket City is always kind of the main effect, right, being the discard. But here he is going to just try getting some chip damage while he can, push us down to 2 life, and here he's saying how many cards we have in hand, where, you know, I might just be able to crack back by flooding the board. I'm not sure if I like the attack here, because you want to starve your resources for your opponent as much as you can, and, you know, giving me 2 extra cores is just 2 extra cores to work with, which effectively translates to 2 more spirits, right? 2 more 1-cost spirits if I had them, or just other spirits I could play to the board. I think at this point he's just very okay just building up a board, slowing down the game, maybe even finding a second Enterprise, right, if he wants to, and then grinding out the game that way. And definitely a quick note here about red in general is playing the double Volcanic Canyon is nice because it can help you filter and, you know, look for those other key pieces pretty quickly. But as we were testing this matchup and you know, kind of going through all the different card draws, there are opportunities for white to just mill you out effectively or stall out the game until you mill yourself out because of things like Volcanic Canyon and all the draw twos. So you do have to be very mindful of that as you're going through the plays. And the real reason why I want to showcase this match in particular is the strength of Elephant control in this board state, where now he's threatening a 10k attack, which is admittedly very rough for red to block, or at least Gigano Rex to block, because now it's 10 to 10, and he's also going to get a free refresh step, which is going to recover all of his spirits and all of his cores. So if he has things like Dream Bomb, right, or just other good white magic cards to use here, he can now both extend out his board, play a bunch of spirits, and then still have resources available to play things like Dream Bomb, or again, just off-color magics as well, Deadly Balance, Burning Force, what have you. Elephant is quite scary. And here again, I think we were just trying to do some BP comparisons, because I was hopefully going to get to start drawing some cards, right, and churning through what I have access to. So here he is just going to freely block with the Elephant, and he is going to get to draw 3 cards and ramp 3 cores. So yes, we are going to try to do some digging here, try to play around the Enterprise. Our 4-drop here is going to be able to boost himself up, so he's a very real threat himself, and then our opponent just wants to kind of save back to the resources so we don't just get to, you know, freely draw off Parasaur. And here comes Elephant number 2. So, you know, we didn't really get to chip away at our opponent's board all that much. He freely got to ramp 3 cards, or ramp 3 cores and draw 3 cards, and it was so nice that he's going to do it twice. And we are now staring down another Elephant. So, I really, you know, I always said that if the meta slows down enough, Elephant can be really good, and I think that's just a nature of where the environment is at currently. And it's a beautiful alt art, so I definitely think I will be foiling out a white deck as well. So here's an interesting aggressive play, just kind of forcing our ice shields, but again, because of the Elephant, now Enterprise is just a 12k attacker, and spoiler, I don't have anything in the Gigano Rex deck that can block that. And at worst, we have to block with the Gigano Rex and also then give up a charged draw. And that's when I realized, like, hey, I'm kind of in trouble here. If I can't very quickly turn the corner and break up my opponent's board state, it's going to be very bad for us. So here we do just have a chain of Gigano Rexes. He's, of course, going to get to draw 3, ramp 3 again. And now all our Gigano Rexes are getting big. So this would have been like the turn that we needed to turn the corner, because all these Gigano Rexes are going to boost one another. But he did have the absolute ice shield from hand, ending the combat, shutting off our Gigano Rex swing turn. And now he's even following it up with another Elephant. And as I mentioned, Gigano Rex is really not a great blocker here. And also just being at 2 life is not a great spot for us to be. So this was just a throw at this point, and this again just me going back to the misplay part, because this is one of the very early games that we tested against Elephant control, and in part of my mind what I was trying to think of, like, I want to force my opponent into attacks that then our Gigano Rex can, you know, hopefully block something for free, right, and get it off the board, as it were. But in the end, we were forced to pop this absolute ice shield anyways, so it would have just been better to build out the board, keep all of our Gigano Rexes, and go for a major swing turn on the follow-up, and then just kind of, you know, hope our opponent has nothing, because at this point we just were very tapped out. So Leon is going to remove a couple of ducks for us. Here again, that we mentioned that we just have the go wide. He'll clean up the duck here shortly. So we're gonna attack with Gigano Rex. make our board bigger, and here he's going to have the suppression, which is actually going to make it a 16k, right? Because you have the 3 from suppression, the 1 from Rocket City, and now we are just losing this Gigano Rex, where I realized that, like, hey, I need to put some stuff on my Nexus. The charge draw is kind of what we're just forced into playing, and then he had the second suppression anyways. So that is going to help push him up to 19k, which would have been able to help us block the Gigano Rex, but then keep in mind that the Rocket City would be able to push him over anyways. So at this point, it was very likely that even if Prim didn't have that absolute ice shield on that one turn specifically, he's still going to have access to enough cards and enough plays where the elephant control strategy is going to take over the game, and Enterprise just being able to shut off all, you know, red spells, which in this particular instance and matchup wouldn't be that good anyways against his spirits. But if he plays like these smaller things like Priestess Ear, where we could just like Burning Force it away, right? That's no longer an option because of Enterprise. And here, unfortunately, we have no absolute ice shield. We have nothing else we can play. He can just get in some more chip damage, and now we're down to 1. No absolute ice shield, very few cards in hand, and just absolutely the deadest of board states at this point. So again, we did have a turn where the, you know, triple Gigano Rex play could have gotten us there, but suppression just turns out to be a very strong card, as it were, and absolute ice shield still doing what absolute ice shield wants to do. So here's where I missed a part, that he does have the Rocket City, so we would just be drawing and discarding. The game was very much over at this point. Again, just for the sake of content, I do like to try to play it out and explain where the board states were going. But at this point, even third suppression. Spoiler, suppression's a great card, y'all. And he does trade here, but now we're out of Gigano Rex, and it doesn't matter what else we have. And then this is the part where we do catch the Rocket City, where we do have to discard that card. So we would have had one less Raptidon here anyways, to use right on our turn, meaning we're just dead on the crackback, and this board state is as it were, not a correct one, we're dead anyways. But again, really just a great game of showcasing that, yes, Gigano Rex does have a game plan to get there and go over the top of what White wants to be doing. But sometimes a just well-timed absolute ice shield can turn the corner. And here I just want him to play it out just to show for a commentary standpoint. The Dream Bomb can be used pre-block flash. So he actually bounces away one of my targets, and now I am just out of blockers. And that is something that White has very good to do with when, again, they're trying to swing with the Gigano Rex. You can just block it and get rid, or bounce it and get rid of their best attacker. So if that game wasn't long enough, even at double speed, we are now going into just a purple good stuff deck against Gigano Rex, which admittedly should always be one of the worst matchups, as you're going to see this play out, because Gigano Rex's main strength is only putting 1 core on him and getting that level 3 effect and being able to set up these go wide boards that purple can just absolutely capitalize on and just chip away your board, be it through things like Earth Spider on their turn or just the myriad of core removal options that they're going to have otherwise. So here I really love this play, a core drain for a BP boost. So he's get to draw the card off Dragonaga Assassin, get to power boost his guy so he stays alive, and now it's still a big curse dude that I have to find a way to deal with on the following turn. And so here we're trying to set up a board for Gigano. And I realized kind of after the fact here, I just needed to be more aggressive because this matchup is just infinitely worse for us as time goes on. But I only had 3 cards in hand left, and I want to try to set up our reductions. But again, leaving just 1 core on that middle spirit doesn't feel great, but I needed to force him off this assassin, or he's just going to continue to get insane value off of it. And he's going to do exactly that. The core theft is going to discard a core, drop our guy down to 3k, and then Dragonaga Assassin, being a 4k, is going to keep him alive. So at this point, we are just getting traded down against purple, and the Dragonaga Assassin is going to do a lot of work carrying this matchup. So just a draw 2 from us, trying to find more pieces on our board. Here we're going to go for a rat just because it can draw us an extra card and hopefully start drawing into some more pieces. Again, very, very strong start here for purple, just getting to chip away some spirits, draw extra cards, and get strictly as much value as Prim has off this single assassin. Netherworld Depths, a card everybody knows and loves, so he's going to get to draw a card from the spirit attacking and draw a card from me blocking, because again, this Dragonaga assassin has just gotten way too much value and I need to get it off the board ASAP. But now even us attacking with rat isn't that good because we want to draw the card, but now we're just going to give our opponent a card anyways. So I was trying to think of a board state where I just go all in on the draw, and then of course kind of as we're filming these back to back to back, I kind of forgot that Deadly Balance is a card, just admittedly. So I should have played another low cost spirit out of my hand, force him to have something else, and then draw 2 cards instead. So very good from just a gameplay discussion standpoint, right? Always respect the Deadly Balance if you're trying to get your card draw synergies online, because if you don't, it will be pretty backbreaking, it turns out. And then, of course, if that couldn't be bad enough for me, here comes another Dragonaga Assassin, as well as another Depth. So he's able to draw now 2 cards every time I attack. And being a more controlling deck in this position, getting to draw cards off your opponent attacking is very, very good and can help, fuel those core drains that you have, or core theft, excuse me, that you can have to, just kill Gigano Rex and things of that nature. So hitting the Volcanic Break here, trying to get rid of the Dragonaga Assassin, kind of looking through what's in my graveyard for a Blazing Boar, because we just have kind of nothing at this point. And again, leaving our spirit with only 1 core is not a great spot to be, so please learn from my mistakes. It's half the reason of doing these content videos. Don't just leave 1 core on them. So really nice here that he does play when summon effect. We get a Star Blessed draw as a response. We're only drawing 2 because we don't have cores for it, but we desperately needed that draw too, so we'll take it. And Agglevale coming down with our Premier Curse guy that we've seen. So going down to 2 life here is fine, because at this point we're still in absolute Ice Shield range if we set it as a burst, but here we are forced to block. And of course, when we block, both of his depths are going to activate and giving him 2 more cards. So at this point, just from a card draw standpoint, right, the purple deck has absolutely ran away with this game, and even getting a Burning Force now is a bit, it's a bit too late, as it were. So now we have all the core reductions that we need to play a big Gigano Rex. And so here's where it gets interesting, right? He's already shown us the core drain, so we know that a drain 3 is possible. And the kind of magic numbers against purple are going to be 2 and 4. 2 because you play around single ping effects like Mordred on attack, Dark King Snake on attack, Earth Spider on attack, right, where they could only drain 1 unless they have multiple targets, and then 4 being the other magic number because of things like core drain. So again, another window here where I should have just been more aggressive and just gone for it, even though he's going to draw what would have been 4 cards here, right? Or technically 6, because he would have waited for the last one. And it turns out he had the core drain anyways, so it really didn't matter. Unfortunately, he's still going to be able to strip out the Gigano Rexes, and now he has a perfect follow-up with the Dark King Snake Pendacle. So even if you put the magic 2 and 4 numbers on your spirits against purple, they still do have multiple outs around them. So if you haven't already, I very strongly recommend playing against a purple core depletion style of control deck, because it is going to be something that we see a lot of for a while, to say the least. So we block, our opponent gets 2 card draws. We're forced here to pop the Absolute Ice Shield, and again, at this point, we really are too far behind, as it were, just from the value of that last turn with the core drain, core theft, excuse me, and Dark King Snake. And now again, as I mentioned, with having to put 2 cores on everything, now that he has the Dark King Snake on board, it's always forcing us to have 2 cores on something, otherwise it is just going to die from him attacking. So here we are going to try to loop back a Gigano Rex, try to build up our board. Again, putting more cores on there so we don't just lose something on the crackback. And Gigano Rex can hopefully lead to us into some bigger board states. So here we're just going to draw, again, our opponent's going to draw 2 off depths, and he has a deadly balance anyways. So quick, just detailed note here that we didn't, do properly. He does have to select his spirit first, right, is the way the card is written, as it were. And then we remove something so that we say, hey, are you giving up the guy that's blocking, right? That would die anyways, or are you giving up something else? So he wanted to draw the card off Algovale, which makes sense. But the Lancer still dies here to our Parasaur, who's getting bigger with the Nexus. But then again, I totally forgot. He conveniently has a Beldegor in the trash, which is going to just kill our Parasaur anyway. So just a really great game that showcases the full control style that purple can lean into, and where red is going to have things like Nova, right, where it could catch up very well from this board. The Gigano Rex version doesn't have that. You are very committed to your all-in confront and very linear game strategy, right, where Nova can be a little bit more flexible. So decks like purple, and even again some white builds with Dream Bomb and other bounce effects, can capitalize on that very, very well. So here again, we are just going to see the Flame Emperor, which I just wanted to play to showcase, like, hey, it can help clear the board against purple and hit quite a few things, right? It would have hit Lancer as well as Beldegor, so it can be something that pops off multiple threats. And here we're just going to load up the Gigano Rex as kind of an all-in the last attack that we have. The Thundering Peaks lets him be a double attacker, which is really nice. We can have a second spirit to hopefully play around the deadly balance. But again, we're just trying to go all in with our draw effects on Scorched Battlefield, but it's ultimately not going to be enough to get us back into this game, as our opponent just did take full control, and we have no absolute ice shield at this point. We were trying to draw into it off the top, but a couple of threats is going to clear the board. And then Bishop into Dark King Snake, another wonderful combo that doesn't care about how many cores you put up, because it's going to strip them down to 1, and he has a few more options that ping off just 1 core at a time. So with that, that is another Gauntlet video for Battle Spirits Saga. As always, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for future Battle Spirits Saga content. But until then, my friends, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.